Kideaters vs. Zoo BoyZ, Chapter 12, Part A. When she took this job, Major Hightower didn't fully realize that the giant problem was literally going to be a problem with giants. They still had not seen the oversized scorpion that people said was the size of a torpedo, hence the name Scorpedo, as you will recall. She had not even seen the uprooted moving trees yet. The smoke in the not-so-far distance drew her and Quasi to find John, slumped over a smoking tennis ball launching machine. She noted a great pile of ash left over from some type of smoldering bonfire. She checked on John. John, are you okay? Did you start a fire so I know where to find you? Where are the others? Are you okay? Are they okay? John, can you answer me? Fully exhausted, he tried to answer her frantic, rapid-firing questions. She strained to hear him. He coughed, then spoke in a raspy voice. I took out the trees. Stump removal, I think. There was unrest in the forest. Trouble with the trees. She replied, Yeah? He held up one finger, asking for a minute, then slowly and methodically said some more. The maples wanted more sunlight, and the oaks ignored their pleas. The trouble with the maples, and they're quite convinced they're right. They say the oaks are just too lofty, and they grab up all the light. But the oaks can't help their feelings if they like the way they're made, and they wondered why the maples can't be happy in their shade. The Major listened like a captive audience as he went on some more. Yep, there's trouble in the forest, and the creatures all have fled, as the maples screamed, Oppression! And the oaks just shake their heads. His voice grew stronger and louder. So the maples formed a union and demanded equal rights. They say the oaks are just too greedy. We'll make them give us light. He took a deep breath and raised his head while looking deep into her eyes. Now there's no more oak oppression, for they passed a noble law. And the trees, well, the trees, Major, are all kept equal with hatchet, axe, and saw. Hightower stared back, then inquired, John, did you just quote a song by the band Rush? He smiled and spoke as if he were a newly formed, fully grown phoenix rising up from the ashes. Yes, I did, Major. She took a step back as he continued. His behavior seemed unstable to her, but he spoke with full clarity, like he had never before experienced. Some say Mr. John Hanson has been able to reproduce life. Others prefer to say mimic rather than reproduce. That takes away the idea that he's some type of a creator, like God, creating something out of nothing. Today I witnessed trees moving like human beings. They are not sea monsters, Major. They are literally tree monsters. Their roots transformed into legs. Other limbs are arms, while branches up top, covered with leaves, are like an afro. She had no idea what he was talking about. She noticed he had wet towels wrapped around his hands and a basket partially filled with flaming tennis balls. She jumped back when he startled her with, More! There are more coming! Fire in the hole! He loaded more balls into the machine. She watched as they spit out, hitting 2 more trees lumbering toward them. He warned her, These 2 are smaller but just as hungry. Watch 'em! She was astonished as the ball made contact with the charging branches. Their struggle to put out the flames knocked them off balance, and soon they joined the fallen ones in one big pile of raging smoke and flames. Seeing the threat now removed, the other boys finally joined John and Major Hightower, cheering John for his brave actions. Quasi got her licks in of excitement for his heroic behavior and for the others reuniting with her. Major Hightower then led them to where most of the crates and cages were dropped. They put what little they had into an appropriate receptacle. As they worked, Jeremy wasn't being very careful. He backed up a little too far and without looking fell into a pond. They all laughed, and almost immediately he was screeching, "There's something grabbing me! Something is grabbing my..." He wondered if it was maybe the octopus, but it was more like a quick pinch and release, not an arm wrapping around him. Whatever it was seemed to now be climbing up the trunk of his body. When it reached his back shoulder blades, they all got their first glimpse of his complaint. Ronnie shouted with glee, "It's a..." Jeremy demanded, "What? What is it?" His voice overpowered what Ronnie was saying. They all tried to answer him. "A monk!" Again he shouted, preventing him from hearing them. "A monk!" He was trying to look up. He also looked down, but the muddy water was too murky and mucky. He couldn't see what felt like something else climbing up his legs. He cried, "What?" He couldn't see what was now sitting on top of his head. He begged for clarity as he tried to move to the edge of the pond. Dave gave him a concrete answer. "It's a monkey. Well, kinda sorta a monkey, but like it has a turtle shell." Jeremy was so confused and conflicted. Moving to the edge to climb out was difficult because the bottom was thick, deep grime. Major Hightower finally explained, "Jeremy, listen, it's a myrtle, a monkey with a turtle shell on its body. Try to capture her." Jeremy blasted back, "Shit captured me." Major guided him, "Scare him." Jeremy shot back again with, "Scare him? This shit's scaring me. Help." Major tried to encourage him. "I'm trying. Now shout. Shout at them. Get angry. Not just afraid. Shout. Make a loud sound like a gun." All of a sudden, she realized she could shoot her gun in the air to spook the spectacle. She explained further as she grabbed her sidearm and pulled a second pistol from the rear holster of her belt. She handed one to the person closest to her. It was Ronnie. She spoke clear and precise. "They'll go in their shell when they are on the defense, and then we can easily capture them." Hightower shot into the air. Ronnie did too. Jeremy shouted in anger, thinking they were shooting at him or at the myrtle on his head. Just as the major said, the monkey went into its shell. It dropped into the water and began to sink. Major commanded, "Quick! Grab it while it's in its shell. It can't hurt you." She wasn't so sure about that last statement regarding it being harmless, but she had to take the risk. The risk was actually on Jeremy's behalf. Once again, this whole trip was a gamble with these children's safehood. Jeremy reached down and pulled the myrtle up. "I got it!" Major shouted back. "Awesome! Throw it here!" He did, and she tossed it into one of the cages and shut the door. Jeremy said, "What now? Get me out of here." She spurred him on. "Okay, we will, but first let's get a big stick, a log, to extend it to you. The myrtles will climb up on it, and we'll capture them. Then you can use the log to come ashore." Part of Jer wanted to forget about catching them and just get the heck out of the murky pond. The other part was accepting the challenge. Dave's words helped with Ronnie's final decision. "Let's do this, dog." Ron and John were already bringing a big log over. They all helped extend it to the edge, from the edge to where Jeremy was. Hightower then instructed them to be quiet so the myrtles would climb up onto the log to expose themselves. They laid in wait. She spoke extra soft. "Let as many as possible climb on, not just one." It was working. By the time there were 5 on there, their guide prepped them. "On your mark, get set, go!" She fired her gun. Ronnie was thrilled to fire his again. He loved that feeling. The monkeys leaped up and pulled themselves into the safety of their shell. Dave leaned over, reached one of the myrtles, threw it at Major, who caught it in a basket, a big basket. Major commended him. "Great, Dave, do more." Dave jumped into the water with a shout like he was wrangling a bull. "Kia!" Another monkey rose up off the log and dropped into the water, shell and all. But he retrieved it, threw it to the waiting basket, and shouted, "Swish! Score!" Between Jeremy and David, they got all 5, then repeated the same waiting and rest time to lure more out. John moved closer to the edge to lean over the edge without getting wet in an attempt to try and help snatch them up. Jeremy was still out in the water, chest deep. David was waist deep. Ronnie was ready to shoot the gun, while Hightower held the sack. While waiting, she emptied the full basket into the cage, with the other ones making room for more. She prepped them again. "Okay, men, reset. We'll do it one more time again. I'll give the on your mark timing again. Ronnie, make sure you're shooting up in the air, not straight up. Remember, what goes up must come down. Shoot it up, but at a slight angle. Okay, here we go. Just wait now. Shh, just like before." They were amped up and ready. After a while, which seemed like an eternity, one by one they slowly climbed up onto the log. This time 7 of them showed up. She urged them, "Wait, wait, wait for it. On your marks, get set, and go!" Bang! All 7 reacted. One sprung up higher than the rest. It sprang up and over Dave's head. It entered its hard shell, then came down with a conk. It landed right on Dave's head. At that same moment, the air around them suddenly erupted with the sound of several helicopters overhead, coming in strong, loud, and harsh. This completely distracted them from the task at hand. Their concentration was blown away. Their full attention was directed upward. The water in the pond was sucked up and thrown into the air with the effect of a light, misty rainstorm. Dave proclaimed, "Yes! Yes!" He rubbed his head where the lump, the size of an ostrich egg, was quickly forming. It made him glad that he was so hard-headed. He announced, "Look, they're lowering down a basket on a cord." Ronnie yelled, "They're here to save us." Major replied, "No, they're here for the myrtles and other things we caught. Toss the bag, containers, small cages, and nets into the basket. Choppers for us will be coming soon. Maybe the other ones overhead are for us. This will all be over soon, boys." She was right. Now on to part B.